This block can be quite intimidating when it's so quiet. Almost there. Stephen didn't want to go out for a drink tonight, so I'll drink my whiskey in the company of my TV. Shit. I forgot the muffin. Well, Ridley will have a nice treat for the night. I'm sure he'll be his happy, thankful self tomorrow. What the fuck? But I locked it. I'm sure of it. Who the fuck did this? I don't have anything valuable. Money. They must have stolen the money. Oh, God. Oh, God. What am I supposed to do now? Fuck! Great. That's all I need. What if it was Red Pete? Where? I need my pills. I can't get my thoughts together. Okay. I'm gonna have to report this to the police. Christ. Why did the neighbors not report anything? I'm calling Stephen. Stephen?
Now, Jack, I told you I'm going for a drink with you for another night in a row.
That's not why I'm ringing. Although I could do with one. Someone broke into my apartment.
What? Did anyone see anything? Have you called the police yet?
No, I don't think so. Anyway, no one contacted me. As for the police, I'm calling right now, officer.
All right. Do you want me to head around? Look for...
Listen,
whoever did this may be watching you.
I don't think anyone is dumb enough to come back.
You're probably...
What? I guess I should clean this shit up. Where to start? There you go. To be honest, I could leave it like this. I still don't understand why Alice liked this painting so much. Shit. The glass in this thing needs to be
Jack, why?
I think I'm just tired. Maybe I could barricade the door with this. I should pack this thing away. I have no interest in DIY at the moment. Now I'm sure I won't get caught up in these papers. Alice's family should really have some of these. That's enough for now. Jeez, I'm exhausted. I'll get the rest in the morning. What a mess. Now if... Oh yeah, I should take my pills. I feel like it takes me forever to finish these things. That's enough. It will never look clean. I need to quickly change and finish getting ready. I'm gonna be late for work again. Got my keys, got my files. Check. Time to go. Remember to close the door properly, Jack. I'll ask the neighbors tomorrow if they saw anything suspicious. Ugh. I wonder if Ridley fixed the coffee machine. Huh? Maybe a bit optimistic. I'd better grab a coffee on the way. I'm exhausted. I wonder who Stephen brought in today. Good morning, Mr. Ridley. Oh, he's not here yet? No, I'll do without him. Almost there. Now for the tough part. The body needs to be moved. Where's Ridley when you need him? Alright. I just need some gloves and my apron. Then I can get to work. I'm going to need my tape recorder for this. Autopsy dated November 22nd, 1991. 7:32 p.m. Led by Dr. Jack. I begin by verifying it's most likely Harper Lloyd. Firefighters found the body after the Chelsea family began. It is also known that the deceased was the last person who had come. Police records also. The most important task in forensic identification of a drowned person is to distinguish whether the death occurred before or after entering the water. Okay, that could have been worse. I carefully removed the victim's clothes so as not to damage the skin. One shoe. The deceased was found fully clothed. I'm going to need the camera to document all possible suspicious marks. Definitely the first thing that stands out is the very advanced post-mortem gigantism. The skin of the deceased appears very delicate, smooth, and relaxed from being in the water for a long time. The whole body is extremely pale. The so-called washerwoman's skin on the feet. The deceased had indeed been in the water for a long time. There are some obvious scratches in the skin. There are bruises and hemorrhages on the neck. These usually occur due to increased inhalation when fighting to breathe underwater. Post-mortem markings are seen on the underside of the body, that is, on the back, thighs, and calves of the deceased. It's likely that the deceased was lying on her back when she was fished out. The skin on the hands can be easily separated from the body. The separation takes the form of a glove. So, after the preliminary exam, it's time to take a closer look at this. Today's date, the deceased was clothed. Rigor mortis does not need to be checked. Based on the state of decay, you can be sure it has subsided. We see thick, white foam in the mouth of the deceased, resulting from pulmonary edema. Foam is a characteristic in deaths due to drowning. The spots have a purplish blue-red hue, which is a typical sign of the death of the organism. There are obvious... Yep, look. No obvious... Due to the earth... Okay, that's probably... I'd better note that down. Marks found on the neck and hands heavily wrinkled from submersion. There doesn't seem to be anything unusual about this. Those abrasions appear relatively, considering the deceased's penchant for drinking alcohol. It could have been a mere accident. Liver mortis of a different color. They're fortunately, Before I begin the dissection, I'll make sure the suggested identity is correct. The suitcase with the fingerprint equipment should be around here somewhere. Oh, here it is. With decomposing bodies, the tissue of the pads and the fingers tends to shrink. To remove these, if the body of the deceased is well preserved, the fingerprint sheet should always be checked. Slipping fingers, too much or too little ink, or inaccurate hand position can make fingerprints illegible. I'm going to conduct a dactyloscopic examination. If in fact the deceased is in the police database, I will find her. Glycerin is injected successively between the nail and the skin of each finger. The substance then enters the fingertip, removing shrinkage and wrinkles. Now I take a brush. Only when the skin is taut and elastic can you use ink. I think it's enough. In the case of drowning victims, you have to be extremely careful. The skin may fall off the hand like a glove when you take the print. I'll use the fax machine to add the print into the system. Green button and... Once the data uploads, I'll run the prints against the police database on the computer. Great, the data is there. Click upload. Now, go through the database and find a matching print. Expect possible hours of fun. One more. Analyze button. And we have a result. Everyone has a story to tell. So, as predicted, the deceased turned out to be Harper Lloyd. That went smoothly. I'll print this out and attach it to the medical records. Great. Now I can go back to my inspection. I'm adding the name of the deceased. I'll start the internal examination by taking fluid. If the victim was alive when she fell into the well, she must have swallowed water fighting for her life, and then diatoms, characteristics of pooled water like a well, got into the body. In the meantime, I'll check the sample under the microscope. I'm sure that these algae traces will be found in the samples taken from the well where police found the body. Now I need to adjust the knobs properly and place the diatom in the center of the slide. Diatoms are single-celled microscopic algae. I won't even notice an army of diatoms from this. Oh, I'm finally starting to see. Oh, the aperture still needs adjustment. The image is too dark. It's perfect. It's not a dirty lens, I'm afraid, but rather a bad focus. Oh, nah. Oh, the aperture still needs adjustment. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. I won't even notice an army of diatoms from this distance. Great. This way I'll see if I'm dealing with a large concentration of these algae. I won't even notice an army of Great. This way I'll see if I'm Nah. Oh. I'm finally starting to see something here. The aperture still needs adjustment. The image is too dark. Oh. I'm finally starting to see something here. And perfect. It's not a dirty lens. And it's not a dirty lens, I'm afraid, but rather a bad focus. Nah. Oh. I'm finally starting to see something here. The aperture still Oh. I'm finally starting to see something here. I won't even notice an army of diatoms from this distance. Great. This way I'll see if I'm dealing with a large concentration. Nah, too much. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. And perfect. I won't even notice an army of diatoms from this Great. This way I'll see if I'm dealing with a lot. It's not a dirty lens. And it's not a dirty lens, I'm afraid, but rather a bad focus. And perfect. Nah, too much light. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. The aperture still needs Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. I won't even notice an army of diatoms from this distance. Great. This way I'll see if I'm dealing with a large concentration of these algae. Nah. Oh, the aperture still Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. Nah. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. It's not a dirty lens, I'm afraid, but rather a bad focus. And perfect. It's not a dirty lens, I'm afraid, but rather a bad focus. And perfect. It's not a dirty lens, I'm afraid, but rather a bad focus. I won't even notice an army of diatoms from this distance. Great. This way I'll see if I'm dealing with a large concentration of these algae. And perfect. It's not a dirty lens, I'm afraid. And perfect. It's not a dirty lens, I'm afraid, but rather a bad focus. And perfect. As expected, we find the aforementioned algae in the solution. Their upper part, epitheca, which overlaps the lower, hypotheca, is clearly visible. The presence of diatoms in the brain samples taken indicate that the deceased was certainly alive when she... Since there were diatoms in the brain, it means that many more of them must have entered the body. Studies of the rest of the organs will most likely confirm this hypothesis. I can finally get to the practical part. I must be extra careful because the skin of the deceased is very stretched. I wouldn't want an explosion here. You can immediately see a very large swelling of the organs. In addition, all internal organs are very congested. I proceed to remove the rib cage. It's easy to see that the ribs have been imprinted in the lungs. So, I'm going to... If diatoms were only present in the lungs, this would mean that the victim was placed in the well after death, and the perpetrator wanted to get rid of the... Taking the lungs in my hand, I feel that the tissues have lost their elasticity, which is the result of water emphysema. In addition, there is significant swelling of the organs, and as a result, the emphysema itself. Corpses found in water are worth examining with a tomograph. However, I can't count on such luxuries, so I must reach for a more archaic technology: a bucket and water. Huh? Ooh, I hope no one dipped a mop in it. It's best to go to the lab for this. Historically, the lung float test is used to detect infanticide. The water should be at room temperature. That's enough. To test for this, I have to place the... This checks if... Jesus. Of course, such a study isn't without flaws. Air may have entered a newborn's airways during resuscitation attempts. Gas is released during decomposition. In this case, however, it's about something else, namely, the amount of fluid in the lungs. To test for this, I have to place the lungs in a container and wait to see if they fall, or if they will. Just as I assumed, the lungs collapsed easily. Fluid could have entered the lungs during panic attempts to catch breath underwater, but it could also be the result of bacterial infections or cancer, so further investigation is needed. I move on to dissecting the lungs of the deceased. You can hear the distinct, very unpleasant crackling of the tissues being cut through. The parenchyma is although all right. Now, I will check the collected fluid under a microscope. If we find 20 diatoms on the slide, it can be considered drowning, and our result is not... Great. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. It's not a man. Perfect. It's not a dirty lens, I'm afraid, but rather a bad focus. And perfect. As expected. In solution, the diatoms are clearly visible. There are smaller and larger clusters of them. There will definitely be more than 20 of them. So far, this case looks pretty standard. It's clear from the beginning that it's drowning. Well, the procedure requires me to check everything anyway. So, I move on to checking the other organs. Strongly developed putrefactic hemolysis of the organ can be seen at first glance. Apart from that, no signs of a heart attack or other heart disease. I move on to the next organ. This time, it's the liver. It's immediately apparent that the deceased didn't care. The beginnings of cirrhosis are visible in some areas. I transfer the organ to a board and proceed to dissect. The cross-section, and I must admit that this considering Harper enjoyed drinking so much that she might not have lasted a few more years. I move on to the stomach. I take a sample of the fluid for testing. It looks very turbid. I'll see what happens after spinning, but that's in a moment. Now, I carefully ligate the organ, then cut it off. It's enlarged, probably full of putrid gases. I transfer it to the board and carefully open it, checking the contents. One thing you'd never get used to is how much this desk smells. Okay, so with all Chris and that. Take your foot on. Now! My head. Oh, I can't think straight. Pills. Where are my pills? Okay, this is one last little sample. Now, set. Ideal for all the fluid tests I need to perform during an autopsy. Done. And I'm certain the analysis will show similarities between the fluid and water in Chelsea's well. Let me think. 3 milliliters should be fine. Okay, now it's the chromatograph's turn. Well, the results are quite clear. I was hoping it would be a more interesting case. More diatoms. Analysis. There's little left to do. I'm going to check the airway patency of interesting. Looks like there's something stuck in the trachea. I'm moving to the board for further inspection. I dissect the trachea and open the organ. Inside, I thought based on the size, not quite there.